So thank you everybody for joining up. I know that some of you are still joining, so I'm just going to move along. I think we have quite a bit today to cover. So those of you who joined a little bit late, you'll have to catch up. So of course, my name is John Pozan. I have my much older colleague with me, Jason Williams. Jason, I don't know if you want to say hi quickly.
Sure. Thanks, John.
So thanks everybody for joining. As I mentioned, today's about Management Reporter, and we're going to be starting at a little bit higher of a level as we did the last time. So we ran a course, I guess, about a month or two ago on kind of a basic introduction to Management Reporter. So if you haven't seen that, even if you consider yourself an intermediate user, it might be worth a watch. It was about an hour long, pretty action-packed, so check that out. Today we're going to focus on some of the more, I guess you could say, intermediate tasks and things like that. So one of the big ones that we've had requested a lot is consolidations. So we're going to be covering that today. The actual demo of Management Reporter itself is going to be about 35 minutes long. The PowerPoint will be pretty quick as usual. So with that, a couple quick housekeeping items. As always, we cannot hear you. So if you need us, write a question. This is one of those topics that is, semi complicated. So if we lose you and it's something foundational and you're worried about, understanding the next step of what Jason's doing, just let us know in the questions. I'll try and keep an eye on them. I think Jason's going to have a stopping point as well. So we'll keep an eye on that. And if we lose you, just let us know. We will take questions at the end. So if it's a major question that can wait, we're going to come back to you, assuming that we have time, which I think we will. And we'll go from there. We're also going to be giving away some Tim Hortons and Dunkin' Donut gift cards. For those of you that are in the US, you'll get Dunkin' Donuts, us Canadians, Tim Hortons. And again, as always, we'll do that at the very end. So let's maybe move on. So those of you who know us, you kind of know what we're all about, but we're located in Toronto, Canada. We are a Dynamics GP partner. We've been doing GP for, I don't know, close to 20 years now. It's all over our walls here at the office. It's what we really are passionate about. It's what we love. So it's just kind of, something that I think makes us a bit different is we're not a partner that does 5 or 6 different Dynamics products. This is really our focus. We really only do Dynamics CRM and Dynamics GP. So we bring a wealth of knowledge and experience with this product. We've also actually created GP 365. And for those of you that join every one of these and hear me talk about it every week or every few weeks, I guess, I apologize. You're probably getting tired of it by now, but it is what it is. We do GP implementations. We also do upgrades and ad hoc support. A couple things I wanted to mention is just options with hosting GP. A lot of people are of the understanding that you need to have it on premise, and that's absolutely not true. There's completely cloud-based offerings like GP 365, and there's also the option to have it hosted in Microsoft Azure. So you have options. If you're tired of looking at GP in a closet somewhere, you're worried it's going to break, reach out to us. We can let you know what your options are. I also wanted to mention that GP 2013 is still out of support and will continue to stay out of support. So if you're on GP 2013 or earlier, make sure that you upgrade so that you're on a supported version of the product. We have a GP upgrade calculator that we created. And if you go to our webpage, gp365.ca, and then you go to resources, you'll see the calculator there. It basically will tell you, based on your environment, your installation, how much it's going to cost you to upgrade to GP 2018, at least as an estimation. They'll give you a kind of a figure for budgeting. So with all of that said, the last thing I wanted to mention, and the last plug here, is that we have an offer, and this offer isn't going away. We give 5 free hours to every single one of our customers each year as a thank you for having us associated as partner of record. So if you're looking for a small amount of support and you don't have a super close relationship with your partner, it might be a great way of getting that support free of charge with just paying your Microsoft enhancement fees. So just a very quick poll here, and I know that these are semi-annoying, but bear with me. I'm just curious how many of you are currently working with a GP partner. And Jason, I just thought of this. Wouldn't it be terrible if someone who's currently working with us said, yes, but I'm not happy with them?
Well, let's really hope that doesn't happen, shall we?
Yeah, let's do that. So I'll just give about a minute or two here, guys, to finish up this poll, and then I'm going to pass it over to Jason, who's going to do super exciting management reporter things. 10 seconds.
Well, maybe while we're waiting, John, I actually was I was actually going to do a little joke in sort of keeping with your history of, making these things humorous. I thought it would be, a kind payback for that. So I do have a little joke here for you. How many salespeople does it take to screw in a light bulb?
Oh boy, how many?
Just one, but it takes technical support 3 weeks to clean up after it.
Wow. I'm speechless.
Yeah. That's pretty much how we feel about you guys.
I was looking for the mute button to see how I could mute you quickly, but I couldn't find it. All right, let's close the polls and get rolling here with the show. So thank you, everybody, for answering that question. Appreciate that. Jason, I'm going to pass it over to you to blow everyone's mind with your management reporting expertise.
Okay, well, thank you, John. So before we get started and get into the good stuff here, just I thought I would go over the prerequisites of sort of what you need to know before you'll find this particularly useful. So first off, we're expecting people to have a basic knowledge about management reporters. So how to generate reports, how to use all the building blocks, whether it's a column or row definition or report definition. I'm not going to be going over that today. We're going to be sort of flying through those areas of the system. So if you don't know them, as I said before, you can go and check out our earlier training material on management reporter basics. Also, would be helpful if you had a basic, accounting understanding of the consolidation process and, terms like what eliminations are and multi-currency and so on and so forth. So if you don't have any of that, feel free to stay on. I'm not trying to scare anybody away by any stretch, but you might not find this as useful and you might need to refer back to our older training before you'll sort of get everything that we're covering today. So what we are going to do today is show you how you can prepare your reports for consolidation. We're going to show how you can implement consolidation in a multi-currency environment. We're going to show how you can do consolidation using reporting trees and also how you can do it in a side-by-side format. So you'll see two different ways that you can show consolidations on your reports. And then we'll also cover how to handle eliminations. So in terms of requirements before you can start doing a multi-currency consolidated report, so obviously the first one is pretty straightforward. The company has to be enabled for management reporter. I'm going to show you how to do that in case you have companies in your GP deployment that don't show up in management reporter. So I'll show you really quickly how you turn that on and make them available. The companies must have a functional currency assigned to them. Otherwise, they will not appear in the reports. They should also be sharing a common account number format and numbering system. Now, this is not a mandatory requirement, but it's really recommended. It makes life a lot easier. There are ways, if your chart of accounts, for example, has different segmentation or different account numbers, there is a way to create that. We're not going to be covering that today. That's what I would consider a very advanced topic. But basically, what you do is you use the reporting tree to define the row definition inside the report, and that allows you to drive the report with more than one row definition. And the reason for that is obviously if the account numbers are different for a different company, then the rows have to be different as well. So that's how we work around that. But again, if there's any possibility of making sure that you set your accounts up with a common numbering system, that would be very, very beneficial. Report definitions cannot be filtered, so I'll show you that as well. That's just at the top of the report definition. You need to make sure that you're using the any filter, which allows it to pull from all the different companies. And finally, of course, users that are going to generate these reports must have security access to both of the companies, so they won't be able to pull the data in. If your companies have a different fiscal period, we're not going to cover this today, but there is a way to handle that. But basically, just to give you kind of a sneak peek at how to do it, you would create a second column in your report definition, and that column, or sorry, in your column definition, and that would use the base minus X. So you would, if for example it was off by 6 months, offset from the primary company, then you would use base minus 6, and that will tell it to always pull data from the same month as it is for the primary company. So it is possible to have different fiscal periods. Obviously, it's a lot easier if they're the same, but that's not practical for everybody. So there is a way to do that. So just a background of what I'm showing you today. First, we're using the sample company, Fabricam. So that's known as TWO. It used to be called The World Online, so that's why it's labeled TWO. I made a copy of that company, and then just to make it look a little different, we posted some additional transactions to the period I'm reporting on, just so that you didn't see side by side the same number. It looks like a complete copy. It's actually 2 different companies. So we posted some transactions to change the balances, but we're using 2 of the companies. So this is not an actual multi-currency environment. Both of these companies have the US dollar as their functional currency. But I will be showing you how to set it up if you have companies in different currencies. So we're going to do that right at the beginning. And in our sort of scenario, the way we've labeled it is the World Online is a retail operation and Fabricam is a wholesale operation, just to give you some sense of like why would you have 2 different entities, just so that you can keep them completely isolated from a financial perspective, and then through consolidated reporting show your income statement and balance sheet. Okay, so let's get out of PowerPoint, and we're going to hop over to remote desktop here, which is where we have our stuff set up. And we're going to start in GP, actually. So the first thing I wanted to show you is how you enable your company for integration with Management Reporter. So you may not have access to this. This could be, you have to be a power user, I believe, to be able to access the function I'm about to show you. But if not, I'm sure you can go to your IT people and they can get you set up. But if you click on the administration button, and then we're going to collapse system here, and we're going to go to company. So this is in the setup window. So under company, it's very easy. This shows you your address and all that sort of stuff. If you click on options at the very bottom, there's 2 options here to enable general ledger reporting, and that has to be turned on for it to even appear in Management Reporter. Then you have an additional option to integrate with analytical accounting data. So if you're using AA and you want those balances and figures to be available in Management Reporter, if you check this off, they'll be available as well. So without this top one checked, though, you won't even see the company appear. And something else I should point out about the environment we're working on. So this is GP 2018. It's not GP 2018 R2 that just came out. It's one version older. And we're using Management Reporter 2012 CU 15, Cumulative Update 15. So these are both very current versions of the product. And so if you don't see these options here, I think they became available in 2015. So GP 2015 and higher, this is how you do it. If you have an older version, I believe then there's a different way to deploy the company, and it's done in the Management Reporter configuration console. We're not going to cover that here today, but if you have any questions or need help, you can always reach out to us. So that is how you enable Management Reporter for the company. The second step is to make sure we have a functional currency. So we're going to go to Financial Node, and then again in the setup, under multi-currency right here, this is where you define your functional currency. So you can see here we're using US dollars. If you can't change this, so once you pick it, make sure you're picking the correct one. So this is what defines the functional currency for the company. And if it's a different foreign, if it's a foreign currency from the company that you're logged into in GP, these tables down here control how Management Reporter will translate those currencies. So if, for example, this company was in Canadian dollars instead of US dollars, and I was going to be including it on the company, I would go to the source company, the one that's in US dollars, and I would check off to translate Canadian dollars. And then for each of these different averaging conventions, you have a choice of an exchange table. So when you click lookup, it'll bring up all the exchange tables you have. Obviously, you pick the one that is correct. It'll default to those across the board, but you can change them individually. So maybe for the historical rates, you're going to use a different exchange table than from the current balances. But very often it is all the same. It's just look to tell it where to look to go get the actual exchange rates. So bear in mind that if you're in a multi-currency environment, you need to tell Management Reporter how to translate the currencies. And if you have more than one, if you have 5 companies and maybe 2 of them are in euro, you would just check these boxes off and do the same thing. and that tells it how to handle the translation. Now, on top of that, for management reporter to know how to treat the accounts themselves, because again, some accounts are going to use historical, some are going to use current, some are going to use average, we need to go to our chart of accounts. So I'm just going to go up here to our financial cards. We'll just go to the first account. And there's this button at the bottom of the window here called currency. When you check that, you have your multi-currency options here. This currency translation type determines how management reporter will treat the account, which of those exchange tables we just looked at it will use to find the exchange rate. So we have options of average, current, and historical. So you need to do that for all of your chart of accounts, and you also need to make sure that the source company or the main company that everything's rolling up into has defined exchange tables for all the different options. And then once you do that and you run reports in Management Reporter, they will come up translated into the functional currency of the primary company. So that's basically how you set up multi-currency. I think one more thing we wanted to look at in here, actually it's in Management Reporter, is the report option to make sure you're not filtering any companies. So what I've done here is I've created a few reports that we're going to use today. They're based on the sample reports that come with it. But let's go into, which one is this one? That's using the tree. We'll do this one. So what I meant by making sure you're not filtering is up here in the top left of your report definition, you have to make sure that it says any, because otherwise it'll only draw data from the company that's selected. So if you put any here, it means pull all the data that exists and then you filter them through trees. And that's how it knows which company to pull into the report. So you just have to make sure this is set to any. So let's go through some of the other options that are important here. Over on settings, so we're doing, this is a tree type consolidated report. So maybe I'll just generate it quickly to show you what it looks like. Of course, I say quickly, but everything in Management Reporter takes time. So it's going to build the report, and it should open up in Internet Explorer. Okay. So again, with a tree type report, everything rolls up to a main report, and then you can drill down. So for example, if I click on sales here, it's going to drill down and show me between the two companies. So here's our wholesale operations, here's retail. So this is Fabricam and this is Fabricam distribution. And you can still drill all the way down into the account, assuming you've set it up for transaction level reporting, all the way down to the individual GL transactions. But at the default, when you're looking at it in the tree, it's going to roll it all up into one balance. And it's all consolidated within the report itself. So this is one type. Now, one thing that's very important when you're using a tree to do your consolidation is if you go to the settings tab here, you need to make sure that you have this set up correctly. So by default, I believe it's set for this, and this will not allow you to drill because it doesn't allow you to pull, it doesn't drill in past the starting unit. So you want to make sure that you're either including all units or selecting the units at runtime. And I'll show you what this looks like when you have it set to select at runtime, but it basically tells it to pull data from both companies when you're running the report. So the only difference between this and a traditional report, so again, we have our normal row definition. We'll just take a quick look at it. There's nothing special here. I didn't have to make any changes. It's pulling all the data in by account category, so all the sales returns, all the other income. So nothing special to the row definition. In this report also, there's nothing special about the column definition. I didn't have to make any changes here either. It's using just the standard as if it was a one company column definition, so nothing that needs to be changed here. The only place we did make a change was in the reporting tree. So originally this report didn't even have a reporting tree, but to do a multi-company consolidation, I added one. I called the tree consolidated, and here's what it looks like. It's very simple. It's basically two rows. And you just tell it on the first, so the summary of all units needs to be any, because you want it to sum and roll up everything together into the single report. And then from there, you can see the node down, so it would be wholesale operations and then retail operations. And all you're doing is telling it to pull it from this company and this company. And you don't even need to remember the company names. You can simply double click, and it'll tell you the companies that are available to pull in the report. In our case, we only have the two. Now, if you're traditionally using a much more elegant tree. A lot of people have, divisions or departments or business units or cost centers or whatever it is you use to drill down. You can still have all of that. There's no reason that you can't. So let me just show you quickly how that would look. So if I just close that, and I'm going to create a new reporting tree here. So here's a blank reporting tree. I would go up to edit, and we can just insert from dimensions. And I'm going to just do division, otherwise it gets really long. So this would be, your more traditional breakdown in terms of how your tree would look. And if this is how you report, you keep it looking like this. The only difference is, again, in the first node here, you can copy and paste this entire thing if your segmentation is the same, and just paste it here, kind of like this. Whoops. So we're going to copy that, and then I'll just go to the end, and we'll paste it here. And now it looks like we're running this twice, but really what I'm going to do is go back up to the top of my paste here, and we're going to say that this is going to be 2, and we're going to copy and then paste this all the way down. So now I've recreated the structure that I had before, and when I go to run the report, I'll still have that drilling capability. So it'll roll it up according to the division, in this case is what I selected, and you'll still have that same drilling capability, but it's done by company instead of just inside one company. So very straightforward. That's all we had to do, and I won't bother to save this. That's all we had to do to make this a a consolidated report. So again, we'll just generate it one more time. Because I changed that setting where I said I'm going to select the units at runtime, it pops this up when you click to generate the report. If I click select all, it would run the entire consolidated report. Or if I just wanted to see one or the other, you can just select which one you want to see. We'll do it consolidated again here. And you can see we're bringing up the same data as before, and I can just drill in again and see the 2 different operations, and then I can drill further down, and we're good to go. So it's really not hard to do once you know how to use trees, which is something that we covered in our last course. So if you don't understand that concept, please feel free to go back and look at that training video. But once you understand that, it's just a matter of telling it which company to pull the data from inside of a tree, and you'll have a consolidated report. Now, this type of report doesn't work for everybody. Some people want to see a side-by-side comparison on the report. So I'm going to show you how you could build one of those. So let me close out of here. And I built another report exactly the same. I used exactly the same base, so it's the same canned report that comes up here. I think it's the 12 or income statement default. And all I did was I customized it again. So you still need a reporting tree, and for our case here, it's exactly the same. I just created 2 nodes in the company, so I'm using the same one. But what we do need to modify is the column structure. So you can see here, that's the eliminations one. Let me pull out the consolidated. So if we look at the way the columns are set up here, what we have, so originally it was just these 2 columns. That was all that was there. But what I did is I put a reporting unit filter on this column. So I'm saying, and you can double click and it tells you what's available. So I said for this one, we're just going to show wholesale operations for this set of columns, these 2 here. And then for these ones, and then I just duplicated this. I just copied these 2 columns and pasted them here. And I said, for this one, we're going to use the retail. So now it knows when it's running the report for these 2 columns to pull only wholesale data, and for these 2 columns to pull it from the retail company. So let's take a look at what it gets when we run it. So you can see we called it income statement side by side, and I put labels under here so that it's wholesale and retail, but it gives us a side by side comparison of the two. Now you can still drill into them, and now it shows on two different rows because they are two different column configurations, and of course zeros on the other one, but it gives you the ability to drill in, and we can still drill all the way down to the transaction level, and that's just for the one company. So very easy to set up. It's not a difficult task. Once you have your reports developed, it's very easy to add multi-company capability to them. Now, the last thing I wanted to show is how we handle eliminations. So, if you have intercompany sales or intercompany purchases and things like that, traditionally those are filtered out of the reports because they're considered eliminations. So in order to handle those, there's a few ways to handle those. One of the more elegant ways to do it would be to create a new company inside GP, and then you can actually post the transactions. So if you want a permanent posted elimination, that would be the way to handle it there, is to create a blank company with the same chart of accounts and everything as your main company, and then actually post the transactions out as intercompany transactions to the elimination company. We're not going to show you that today, but if you want permanent eliminations, that's the way you handle that. What I'm going to show you today is how to do it at report time. So I created another set of column definitions right here called eliminations. And it looks almost identical to the one I just showed you. But the difference is we have these two columns in the middle. Well, there's three columns in the middle. So this one and this one are the eliminations on either side. So if you have more than two companies, you would have if you have three companies, you'd have three columns. If you have four companies, you'd have four columns, and so on. A couple of things to note here. So we don't want to see this column. It's not really, it's just for calculation purposes. It's not for showing. So I put the non-printing control here. So if you put NP under print control, it suppresses this column from printing on the report. But you can still use it in calculations, which is what we want. So I simply put NP and it's not going to show. Again, we're filtering it. So this side is the wholesale elimination. So we're filtering it down to the tree on wholesale. Same thing here on retail. And then down here, you pick the account category or account, or it can be a range of accounts or a dimension, whatever dimension you're using to control your intercompany transactions. In this case, because this is sample data, we don't really have one. I just used other income. But normally this would be like intercompany sales transaction or intercompany or something like that. And in the balance sheet, it would be due to, due from. So if you want to eliminate those, you're putting this under the dimension filter. And let me show you really quickly how I did that. So I'll just clear this. So you just click on the space, you double click, and it'll bring up this menu, and you have to tell it how you want to filter. So in our case, we used account category, but again, you can use any of the segments in your account or use specific accounts or ranges of accounts. And as you can see here, there's a plus, 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 so you can add. You can say it's going to be, this account category plus this account plus this account plus this account. So you don't have to have them all tied together by account category. You can have them separate and just list them. But in our case, we were just using other income, so I just double click. And then in this, again, you can pick a range, but in our case, it's just one, so we chose other income. And again, this would normally be called intercompany sales or something. So I'll click OK and click OK, and that's how you put the filters on. So you need to put a filter on both. Then we have this additional column here, which is our total elimination, and we are choosing to show this one on the report, so there's no NP here, and it's simply a calculation of D plus E. So that's the formula, and you'll notice up here it says calc, not financial dimension, it's calc. And then finally the consolidated balance, so this is giving us our consolidated income statement, again is a calculation, and it's B plus C minus F, and that gives us our consolidated report. So let's jump out of here, and we're going to run it really quickly. I'll save my changes, and let's generate. Okay, so you see here This is the January wholesale, January retail. This account here, this other income, is the one I was using for eliminations. So the sum of those is 4704, and consolidated, now it's been removed from the report. So it's very easy to do runtime report eliminations without having to post anything in your GL if you just want to use some calculated fields on the report. So really, that's all I've got for you today. Is just wanted to show you how to bring these multiple companies into Management Reporter. And of course, if you guys have any questions, if you post them in the question area, I'll be happy to answer them after John gives a little bit more of a sales spiel here.
Sales spiel, man, that sounds invigorating. All right, so we'll finish up a couple quick slides here, and then we'll get to the giveaways. So the first thing to mention is the next next webinar topic. So it's going to be November 22nd, and it will be on fixed assets. So a lot of you have been emailing us asking, what it's capable of, what the module can do. So this webinar is for you. We're going to be talking about not only what GP can do with fixed assets, but also, average cost, licensing, and kind of everything that you need to know. So if that's of interest, please go and register. As always, all of our webinars are listed on our training webinars section or events section on our webpage. And I also need your help. I'm sort of struggling on topics here. So if anyone can give me a suggestion, it would be greatly appreciated. My email will be on the last slide as always, but you can also email info, I-N-F-O, at gp365.ca. Just let us know kind of what topic you're looking for. It's fine if it's even third-party add-ons or products that you've been evaluating. We work with quite a few companies like E1 and Macorma and other organizations that are out there. So let us know what you want to see so that we can make it our next event. And the most recent blogs that we've posted, or I guess you could say resources, are shown here. So we did an event recently on how to prepare and budget for a Dynamics GP upgrade. It was one of our more popular events. So not only did we talk through everything that you need to know from a technology perspective, like SQL versions and making sure that all of your ducks are in a row, we also released our GP cost upgrade calculator. So if you're interested in either that session or to check out the calculator, you can go to our resources section and try both. It will show you the cost right away. It's not one of those where you fill out a whole bunch of stuff and then you have to wait a week and a whole bunch of salespeople call you and then eventually you figure it out. So it will show you right on the fly, although I may call you. No, I may email you to see if you're interested, but it's something that you don't have to wait for. So check that out. All of our resources are there. And the last thing is, again, if anybody is looking for a partner, I know a few of you actually said that you were when I ran that survey. I will probably be reaching out to you just to see if we can help and if there's any needs that we can assist with. But of course, no pressure at all. So yeah, thank you for that. I see some questions here starting to flow in.
Yeah, I've already got 2 or 3 of them here that I got to respond to. So the first one I see is, can I change the account number if my chart of accounts is already populated? So the answer to that is yes. It's not something that you would take lightly. It is possible. It's possible both to change the account numbers and the segmentation. There's a set of tools called the Professional Services Tools Library, PSTL. Usually it's not exposed to the users of the company. It'll be, either a partner or somebody like that that's going to do this kind of stuff because it's kind of risky. So we would normally, put out a maintenance plan and a rollback plan and all that kind of thing. But you can change the account structure with those tools as well as changing the account numbers themselves. And typically what we would need to do that is a spreadsheet of sort of the old account number and what the new account number is going to be. There's also a tool, third-party tool made by CRG, which is actually a Canadian company in Ottawa, and they have a set of tools that allow you to do this a little bit easier and faster, and it has audit reporting. So if you ever needed to, show it to your auditors, it would give you a report so that you know what was done. So the answer is it can be done, but it's not something to take lightly. Changing your chart of accounts is certainly something you don't want to do during the day while people are logged in. That's for sure. The next question I see here is, what if one company has less than 100% ownership in the other company? Okay, yeah, so that can be handled. That's actually done in the tree. So let me just hop back. Sorry, John, I know I'm breaking up your PowerPoint here, but I'm going to go. Yeah, I'm going to go back to GP real quick. And I'll use the tree here, the simpler one. So in the reporting tree that we defined, there's a column where you can allocate a percentage. Where is it here? This one. So it should be column K, so the roll-up percentage. So if Fabricam owned 20% of TWO, in here under TWO, under column K, you would put in 20%. So now it will only allocate 20% of the balances in the consolidated report. So that's how that's handled. And I assume that answers your question. Of course, I can't talk to you directly, so if it didn't, feel free to reach out and we'll go over any other questions you have. And that's all I see now, actually, in questions.
Yeah,
I think somebody must
that's the
have
great part
withdrawn.
about having the mic, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And hey, by the way, Matthew, hope you're doing well. I know that you were one of the people that was reaching out to us requesting this topic, so thank you for joining, and also for the request, actually, because this was a result of you reaching out, so appreciate that. So my last shameless or shameful plug of the day is from a review perspective. So these reviews really help us sort of get noticed and recognized in the Dynamics GP space and community. So if anyone has even a minute, it would mean a lot if you could just type in ADEM Corporation, leave us a review, hopefully a good one. It really helps us out, and it doesn't take too long. And of course, really appreciate that. So with that said, there's my email as well, my direct email. So for any of you that are looking to request a topic or have a question or anything like that, or just want to tell me how awesome we are, there's my email. So let's give away some stuff. Had too much coffee today, I think, but okay.
Yeah,
so
clearly.
the first winner is Ariana B. Congratulations. And the second one is Paul S. So both new winners. I don't think either of them have won before. So congratulations to you two. Thank you to everybody for joining. We really appreciate the support. Hope you guys will leave us a review. And if not, we still hope to see you on the next webinar, Fixed Assets, November 22nd. Thank you, Jason. Appreciate it. I only make fun of you out of love. So.
Thank you, John.
All right, see you guys.
And thank you, everyone.